Україно, рідна земля мати. Господь, Отець наш Небесний, благословіть.
In Ukraine, death often comes from a clear blue sky. A Russian shell has struck a Ukrainian army position on the Donbass front line.
Давай, берег! Серенький, маленький мой, давай! Быстренько, ребята!
In the shelter of this cellar, two soldiers of Thunder Company attempt to resuscitate a mortally wounded comrade.
Вдох. Я вийшов, воздух виходить.
Such casualties have occurred countless times since the Russian invasion of February 2022. We are in the second winter of the full-scale war. Battlefield conditions are taxing for both sides. But pressure is growing on Ukraine, not least since summer's failed counteroffensive, and more recently, the suspension of American and EU funding. The situation in at least 3 sectors of this vast front line is difficult, the Army's Supreme Commander has admitted. For the last 2 weeks, male photographer Jamie Wiseman and I have been given unprecedented access to Ukrainian troops on these frozen front lines. Among our hosts were Thunder Company. Artillery continues to take the greatest toll of soldiers on both sides. But as the temperatures remain far below zero, frostbite and pneumonia cases have also begun to appear on the casualty list. The future for Ukraine is uncertain. Victory, whatever that looks like now, less assured. But this is where a badly mauled but still determined Ukrainian army has dug into the snow and ice in preparation for a new Kremlin onslaught. Dawn over Dnipro after a night of hypersonic missile attacks. It's so cold that the Dnieper River, a mile wide at certain points, has frozen over. The temperature is falling again towards a predicted minus 21 degrees centigrade as the last leg of our journey to the Eastern Front begins. It takes us through a vast flat snowscape, broken only by the outline of trees, occasional car wrecks, and halts for military checkpoints. In the distance, one of the Donbass coalfields slag heaps looks like an iceberg in a polar sea. We reached the little Donetsk town of Kurokov. At Christmas, following a long and devastating siege, the Russians captured Marienka, only 20 minutes drive from here. Many observers believe Kurokov will be the next target in the Russian line of advance. As we arrive, it's under Russian rocket artillery fire. Most residents have left. The only civilian to be seen in the main street is a drunk, shouting at passing military traffic. This is not good drone weather. The skies are clear, but when the temperature falls below minus 10 degrees, the drone's batteries lose power. There have also been instances of rotors freezing in mid-flight, causing the machines to crash. Daniel, who worked in a travel agency before the Russian invasion, is now a qualified FPV drone pilot, flying his machines via video goggles. It is now minus 15 degrees, but he can't wear gloves because the controls require fingertip sensitivity. His hands are purple with cold. The drone he is trying to launch refuses to lift off. The battery is sleepy. This war has made me hate the winter, one of the men tells me. I dream of the summer. After victory, I don't ever want to feel this cold again.
This one. Wow. So, and you need to use because...
Such sentiments are shared by Nazar, a dentist by training, now a senior sergeant in a scout battalion. For the past year, his unit has been in continuous action near Bakhmut. Nazar is carrying a new American AR-15 assault rifle, equipped with a thermal scope. He paid for it from his own pocket.
When it's frost coming, the Russians start going forward. For Russian country, the winter time is perfect time. And for me it was look like some deja vu last year and this year again. It's hard to go in somewhere. It's very easy for our enemy found us, because you know it's in winter time it's so hard to go somewhere where you don't see somebody.
I ask him about rest and rotation.
Actually, it's a little bit painful question for us, because especially our group don't have rotation.
So you need more men in the front line.
Yep. More guns, more equipment, and first of all, it's more men.
We reach an icebound hamlet beyond the city of Sloviansk. Here, another abandoned cottage is being used as the medical command post for a battalion of the 56th Brigade. The doctor in charge is a young reserve lieutenant called Victor. He talks candidly about the pressure he is under and the new challenges that the winter war has imposed.
It's very tough now on the battlefield. Sometimes we don't sleep for several days. 80% of the casualties we are treating are caused by shrapnel rather than bullets. But due to the steep fall in temperature, we are now getting cases of pneumonia and frostbite. Because of the sub-zero temperatures, the safe time for applying a tourniquet is also significantly reduced to no more than an hour rather than 2.
Battlefield evacuations are carried out using an elderly M113 armoured personnel carrier. Marked with red crosses, it is nevertheless concealed under trees, the drone threat again, in a field across the lane. Manufactured for the US Army during the presidency of Jimmy Carter, the vehicle is much older than the doctor.
Once, in an extreme situation, we were able to get 11 wounded soldiers, including 2 stretcher cases, into the back of this thing, along with 2 medics.
I wonder at the circumstance in which so many were wounded at one time, but then we meet Thunder Company and understand. Thunder Company headquarters is in the countryside close to the frontline city of Kupiansk. Even before the war, life must have been hard for whoever lived here. There is no running water. Back in Kyiv, the restaurants and bars are full of young people who have neither volunteered nor been drafted for the war. Here, our hosts are grizzled, stout-bellied, and with medical conditions that should have seen them signed off as unfit. But they are determined. This existential conflict is largely being fought by Ukraine's Generation X. The average age of a Ukrainian combat soldier is 43. They've also been equipped with some rather elderly weapons.
This is a Carl Gustav M45 submachine gun, which was produced in Sweden in 1945 and retired in the Swedish Army, from the Swedish Army in 1965. This particular weapon was given to a Ukrainian army unit to fight the Russians in 2022. It's still on the front line.
The company's deputy commander, a walrus-moustached veteran with the call sign Kruger, gives us a demonstration of what he calls with some disgust, this museum piece. Igor, the company supplies officer, had a heart valve fitted after he suffered blast injuries in 2014. He has been wounded almost every year since then. He finds solace in cooking for his comrades and us. Splendid stews and his speciality, a donut made from cottage cheese, raisins and jam, called pundiki.
This is stew made by the amazing Igor, who is a very talented amateur chef.
Such comradeship has been forged in adversity. The original company was almost totally destroyed in the meat grinder of Bakhmut. The commander says that of his 120 men who went in, Only 26 came out alive or without life-changing injuries. They filmed this footage during a Russian artillery attack. One of their soldiers was caught out in the open.
Давай, берег! Серенький, маленький мой, давай! Держись! Быстренько, ребята! Я не могу поднять, тут уже все. Давай. Давай, хотя бы тащи. Давай, давай.
The severely wounded soldier is taken down into the cellar. Thunder Company held their position there for 7 months. The unit that replaced them lost it inside 3 weeks. What remained of Thunder Company was taken out of the line, then folded into the newly formed 41st Brigade. Now they are on the Kupiansk front line, facing a new Russian offensive. We are billeted in an outbuilding, and by 3 a.m. it's simply too cold to sleep. Out in the darkness, artillery fire is marking a slow drumbeat, like the tolling of a village church clock back home. The next morning, the snow gives way to heavy rain. Meltwater pours off our hovel's roof.
For the last few days it's been very, very cold, minus 20 and falling. And in fact last night here it was too cold to sleep. But the rain came this morning. As you can see, there is a serious thaw going on. And of course that presents new challenges for the soldiers who are having to fight the war here.
On the Kupiansk front, ice becomes slush and mud, creating another kind of misery. Yet within hours, the rain stops, the temperature plummets, and the slush turns back to ice. This is frostbite and pneumonia weather. But whatever the conditions, the military activity does not stop. Hundreds of newly cut pine trunks have been piled here by army engineers. The timber will be used to strengthen Ukrainian trenches and dugouts. In other words, defensive rather than offensive positions. Kupiansk city is an unhappy place of damaged buildings and foreboding of what is still to come. It has already changed hands twice in this war. Something like normal life carries on, but the streets are largely empty and the city remains under threat from artillery strikes and a new Russian ground offensive. The front line is very close. All the road and rail bridges over the Oskil River have been destroyed. This bridge used to carry the railway to Luhansk. There is one pedestrian crossing left.
This is the partially destroyed bridge over the Oskil River in the centre of Kupiansk. 5 miles, approximately 5 miles beyond this bridge is the front line.
Nowhere is safe here. A sign at this petrol station, within range of Russian artillery and drones, warns that no more than 4 cars should stop on the forecourt at any one time. It is a prime target. Behind those sandbags is a very brave female cashier. In other circumstances, this would be the perfect winter's day for a walk in the woods. The temperature is a little below zero, the sky a faultless blue, the snow crisp underfoot. But these details are incidental to the crash and boom of artillery fire, both incoming and outgoing. Two Ukrainian soldiers in white camouflage overalls have stepped from among the trees to meet us. We must move quickly and keep under cover, they say, because the conditions today are also ideal for drone warfare, and the Russian front line is well within range. Indeed, the Russian border is only 25 miles away. This is the Kupiansk forest in the Kharkiv Oblast of northeastern Ukraine. From their camouflage positions inside the forests on the eastern bank of the Oskil River, the 41st Brigade's artillerymen are tasked with blunting any attempted Russian breakthrough.
During only one day, the Ukrainian defense forces in the...
They have been kept busy. Here, a self-propelled howitzer of the 41st goes into action. It is a Soviet-era self-propelled howitzer of a 1960s design and is hull down in a specially dug position. The gun is further concealed by camouflage netting, and a heavy mesh screen protects it against kamikaze drones. This is lifted only when the 122mm howitzer is about to fire. Ammunition has to be conserved.
We are not Russians who can fire indiscriminately. If we are given a target, we fire, for example, 6 shells. After that, we scatter away from the vehicle.
Sasha's crew has started the big diesel engine. The vehicle is not going anywhere, but the crew have to do this every so often to prevent it from freezing solid. Theirs is a deadly game of forest hide-and-seek. There is considerable nervousness here that our arrival and presence might be noticed by the Russians. Our film will be censored to make sure that nothing gives away the position. A major attack is expected any day now, but Sasha remains one of life's optimists.
When we meet again, I hope we'll be a little further east.
I wish him luck.
Everything will be fine.
It is not a sentiment widely offered by many on this frozen front line in these difficult times for Ukraine.